Yar, and welcome back to my studio, or as I like to call it, Muppet's Treasure Island. I just want to give a little disclaimer for this video. There's going to be a lot of nautical puns, and if you don't like it, go walk the plank. But that's not what you came for. If you clicked on this video, you want to see me make a wreath, and not just any wreath, not some boring Christmas wreath, but a Muppet Treasure Island wreath. And this should be a snap because I've already nailed the perfect Christmas wreath. As you can see, this wreath right here has gone viral so many times I can't even count. So let's see if I can match that energy. This wreath is gonna have more puppets, pirates, and treasure worthy of a Muppet mutiny. Yar, let's do this. First things first, the wreath. Ta-da! I know, it looks so bare when I start, and then I just fill it and fill it and fill it. And the first thing I'm gonna add is our favorite chaotic duo. That's right, I'm gonna make Gonzo and Rizzo from scratch. Because no pirate ship is complete without the weirdo and the street smart talking rat. And the first thing we're gonna need to start is foam, the creator of puppet life. Sorry, Zeus. Not to worry, no dogs were harmed in making this video, and the hurt tax was paid.
It's okay. Did that thing almost fall on you? Did that thing almost fall on you?
Now with Zeus appeased, we're gonna go back to our foam. And here's my big boy foam roll. They send it in the mail this way, so that way it's condensed and easier to move, but once I open this, it's gonna expand and be huge. Shout out to Foam and More, that's where I get my foam from. I might have to tilt you down a little bit so you can see the foam. Now that we've moved down, let's open this up. It's always really crazy to open one of these, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about if you've ever bought those Pillsbury cans with like the biscuits or the croissant dough. When you go to open them and you're just like hitting them with like utensils or on the counter and like they burst finally and you're like, ah! I know I'm not the only one to get anxious about stuff like that, but we're gonna be brave. We're gonna do this. Soak it in! Please don't explode on me. I'm getting really close to the end. Ready? And here we are, a giant piece of foam. The reason I buy this foam is because of the thickness. I really like to not have to glue pieces together to make a puppet. I mean, it happens, but this is a pretty thick foam. Okay, now that the foam has been defeated just barely, I can start cutting it. And to do that, we need to pull out the big guns. Look at me, I'm Leatherface.
Oh, look at me, I'm Leatherface.
If you know, you know. Okay, let's get you a better view. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the Gonzo pattern and trace out the approximate size of the foam block I'll need. Then I trace the Gonzo head pattern so I have a guideline of how much I need to chop off, and I just get to work. The next step is sanding his head, and if you've been a follower of mine for a while, you know that I normally do a safety dance. But in lieu of the safety dance this time, I offer up a Batman Suit Up compilation. That felt so cool, only to do this. I know it's not the most exciting task of this whole journey, but it is super important because Gonzo has skin exposed and you have to make sure that those parts are smooth when you go to paint them. So here's the before the sanding and here's after. Doesn't he look so much more dapper? Now I can start painting his iconic nose. Using an airbrush for this part is everything because you want it to lay evenly and very light so it doesn't crust up and, you know, look bad. Now I'm gonna let it air dry for a while before I start stippling the blue paint onto his nose. Hey, good morning. So last night I got a little tired and I didn't finish painting Gonzo's nose, but I'm gonna finish right here so we can move on to the next step, which is boiling his fur. I know, right? Boiling fur. But that's how you get that really cool, like frazzled texture to his fur that he's known for. So all you have to do is take a pot of boiling water and stick blue fur in. And that's it. Give it a couple stirs around in my cauldron and then hang it up to dry. And then you get this beautiful texture. Here, let me show you something. Before, look how smooth. I mean, it's already kind of a little bit textured, but, and boom, so much more matted, right? And now let's add the fur. And it's really very easy. I just take the fabric, stretch it around the head, and glue it down. I cut out a piece of foam for his lip and use a pair of ping pong balls for his eyes. Then I slice out some foam for his eyelids. Paint it all up and then glue it all down. I say this part is easy and it looks easy, but this actually took me quite a few hours to complete. Now I'm gonna cut out his pupils, which I really like to use my Cricut machine for. It just cuts out the most perfect circles. And then before his head is done, I make sure to give him a little bit of a haircut. Okay, he has fur, he has a face, but we're not done yet. We're not even close. Time to get him up on the wreath and in his pirate clothes. Now we got him on the wreath and he definitely looks weird, and that's Gonzo for you. Now I get to do one of my favorite parts about doing these projects, which is make tiny little pirate clothes for him. This is where I could have saved some money on the project. If I would have gone and thrifted this fabric and collected it over time, it would have been so much cheaper. Or even bought it at Joann's. Hello, darkness, my old friend. But I didn't get to do any of that and it was pricey. Okay, let's talk about what I got. Okay, we have for his cuffs, for his vest, for his coat, for his undershirt, and for his lapel scarf thing. And I of course bought similar fabric for Rizzo, but we'll get to that later. For now, we're gonna work on Gonzo. Ahoy there! Let's get Gonzo ready to sail the high seas with style. We start off with his gray undercoat vest, which I pin into place and then glue down for extra security. Fashion and function, baby. And then I make a pair of wire arms as usual, and they make me think of a T-Rex every time. Next, I pin up his yellow pirate overcoat. I use my sewing machine to stitch the areas that will actually be visible. The rest, a little hot glue magic. If you can't see it, it's not cheating, it's efficiency. Now for some of the extra details I love to do. I pin up some big old gray cuffs. I sew up some of the undershirt pieces using the gathering method, which if you know me, you know I love to do. But look at the cool detail on that sleeve. Totally worth it in my opinion. This is why I love the Muppets costumes so much. There's just so many layers and each piece adds like its own vibe and personality to the outfit. And I just love it. It screams fun and funky and Muppet. Once I fix up his collar, I start adding this blue charming little lapel handkerchief thing, which I just tie up and cut off what I don't need. Then it's time to make his hands. I trace them out, I stitch them up, and pop in another wire armature underneath so he can pose his hands however he wants. Like say holding his best bud Rizzo, And of course, no pirate is complete without a hat. I made his hat out of ABA foam, covered it with felt, and added a brown ribbon around the brim for some extra pizzazz. And just like that, here's Gonzo's finished pirate hat. He's definitely looking the part. Ta-da! Gonzo is almost complete. He needs a couple little touches like buttons on his clothes. I need to fix up his eyes a little bit. But he's pretty much ready to be kidnapped by pirates. So now we're gonna move on to Rizzo. So I bought a sewing pattern off of Etsy for Rizzo, and sometimes you just gotta let other people do the math. And of course, I will make sure to put the link in the description below. So let's get making Rizzo. Enjoy your cruise, sir. Next! It's so hard to choose in between Rizzo and Gonzo of which one is my favorite. That would be like choosing between Crow and Tom Servo. They're just both so insanely funny. But anyways, back to Rizzo. I just sewed him up from the pattern that I got on Etsy as a base to work with. And then I used some EVA foam for his ears, painted them up, and for his eyeballs, I went a little bit extra, shocking I know, and made a custom mold and casted them in plastic. But honestly, if you're gonna try to do this at home, you could totally use marbles, super doable. Speaking of extra, did I buy a tiny loom with yarn just to make him the cutest little pirate beanie ever? Yes I did. And I would do it again because that's the quality you get here at Kristen's Wicked Workshop. Every detail, every stitch, every tiny little thing is made with intention. There are tons of other creators out there that do fast crafts or dollar store supplies, and that's awesome. But that's just not me. I'm gonna take my time and I'm gonna splurge on the right materials and obsess over all those little things because that's what makes me proud for what I do. And I really hope you like the work I do too. Oops, I'm sorry, I went on a little rant there. So let's get back to Rizzo. So I made his dashing yellow vest and now I'm working on his gray overcoat, which, let's be honest, looks ridiculously dapper. Then I sew up a green and white plaid collar, which I'll attach in a minute. But first, some custom pirate pants. Usually, I'm pretty sure Rizzo's rocking that Winnie the Pooh look, but in Muppet Treasure Island, he's got full-on trousers. I snipped a little piece from a scarf to create him the tiniest little green neck scarf and tucked his collar back in, but then moved on to his teeth. You know, because he's only here for the food. Oh, and this is super important. If you're making a Muppet style puppet, always make sure to pick your seams. It makes a huge difference to how clean and pro your build looks. Anyways, then I folded up these teeny tiny pocket squares to give his vest that little extra flair because, you know, details matter. Next up is his hands. I made a wire armature and sculpted his little rat hands out of clay, painted them brown, and secured them in place on his main armature. He's gonna be ready to eat all that food pretty soon. Then I mount him onto the wreath using a dowel rod through his foot. It's hidden, but he's locked in tight. Then I add in all his facial features like his tongue, his nose, and his eyeballs. Oh, and while I was at it, I went back and added Gonzo's buttons onto his cuffs. And for Rizzo's pupils, just like Gonzo's, I used my Cricut machine to cut out the tiny little perfect circles and placed them on his peepers.
Ta-da!
It's so late, I'm so tired, but I finished Gonzo and Rizzo and got the lights up. I'm finally ready to put on the rest of the wreath. To really make this a pirate wreath, I need to add all the pirate chaotic stuff around them. I'm gonna add swords and coins and a barrel that says gunpowder, if you know, you know, and lots of other details that Treasure Island fans will really love. And of course I said I was done just a second ago, but I realized that I forgot the little buttons on Rizzo. So I'll do that real quick too. But I'm really excited to start the next part of this adventure. The adventure continues. So I bought this plastic pirate sword online, but it looked a little too party store. So I made sure to repaint the silver and weather up it a little bit so it looks like it came from a pirate ship. I also found this wooden barrel online and I'm pretty sure it came from Hobby Lobby because it had that sticker, but I did not love the shiny metal bands on it, so I popped those off so I could give the barrel like a whole makeover. I wanted it to feel dirty and grungy and aged, so I painted it up a little bit and then I made this stencil with my Cricut machine so I could slap the word gunpowder on it, and I used a technique of dabbing the paint on it so it looked very worn and piratey, which is what I was going for. To really finish it off, I wrapped some hemp twine around the barrel for some texture, and then I cut some cardboard into a circle for the top lid of the barrel. Now in true Muppet fashion, of course I need to make candles on top of this gunpowder so it can go kaboom at some point. So using some foam dowels, I cut them down, drilled holes in the center, glued them to the lid, and then drilled again so I would have a hole all the way through, and used my hot glue gun to make realistic wax drips, which was so satisfying. Once the sword and the barrel were ready, I placed them onto the wreath and secured them in place with some spray foam. If you've never used spray foam before, it's messy, it's sticky, but it's not very expensive and it really holds things in place. I'm gonna build up this bottom part here so I can add some pirate treasure to it later. Now with the barrel in place, I can start adding the lighting through the candles. I'm also gonna give a quick paint job to all that hot glue. Now I can start putting on the netting, and there is a lot of netting on this wreath. I really wanted to lean into that classic pirate vibe, like something you'd find washed ashore on Treasure Island. Then I added a compass like Jim's dad gave him, a worn but useful pirate treasure map, some knotted rope, and some gemstones in the treasure, and of course, a ton of coins. Yeah, I know, it's kind of a little bit wild, but I actually love these kinds of tasks. I can usually just relax and zone out, listen to some music, and just let all the details come together. Usually I'm playing the soundtrack to whatever movie I'm working on. Now that everything's in place, I'm just going to add one last layer of netting to tie it all together, and with that, we're ready for the reveal. And as always, a big shout out to my Patreon coven. You all are the treasure to my island. I could not do this without you, and I know that you know how much I appreciate every single one of you. And as you all know, I have a big project that I'm working on, and I'm hoping it can be done before the premiere. So I need to get back to work, and I'll see you all real soon. Okay, love you, bye!